My name is Kris Keller from the band Note Graffiti. We just dropped our album, Resist the Divide. Check it out. And you're listening to John the Ninja.
Good to go. Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing? It's John the Ninja live in the dojo, aka the dojo. You know it's the John the Ninja Studios. I've told you once, I've told you twice. It's Studio C or D, B, A. You know I'm not good at math and I'm not good at figuring out where I'm at. But what I am good at is being able to have an opportunity to have an audience with some of the best musicians the world has ever seen. And some of them, man, they will blow your mind. Like this gentleman who happens to be a metal monk who knows the roots of reggae, may I add. And he's also the master of open scene. Call it divine intervention, as he left his guitar untuned to a certain extent, but it was in detuning. And when he came back, it was in open C. And you know what? It sounded magnificent, fantastic, and it was the perfect sound for this individual to grab. So, back to the idea of divine intervention. When he was younger, growing up on a farm around Michigan, I would say with his brother, he's 2 years older than his brother, remember that, they were introduced to rock music. And for some reason, he grew and gravitated to John Bonham and the drums. But something inside told him that he had to do this for a living, but it wasn't as a drummer, it was as a guitarist. And let me tell you, he rose to good, prominent playing as him and his brother and their band would not only win a battle of the bands, but also open up for Zakk Wylde, who we all know is pretty spectacular too, but this was before Ozzy, so he was shredding faces before the world knew. I digress. The person I speak of is Kris Keller, and the band that he is here to promote is Note Graffiti. When I tell you, this band is an amalgamation of some of the greatest talent you'll ever hear. They have Miss Gabrielle Gloria on vocals, Riccardo Ortiz on vocals and guitar, Adam Nine, one of his oldest friends, on bass, Kurt, his brother, on percussion, and Kris on guitars and vocals. In the span of their career, these prolific songwriters have produced several albums, appeared internationally, disputed all over the place, and have traveled back and forth from New York, back to Canada, overseas, and roundabout. And they've even worked with Josh Schroeder. And if you don't know that name, you will after this conversation. They give us melodic hard rock mixture that just can't be topped. He's here to talk about their latest offering, Resist the Divide. Ladies and gentlemen, I very gratefully give you a Mr. Kris Keller. Sir, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, John. Thank you so much for having me. And, you know, I just want to start it out with thanking you for doing the homework on the band and me. And you're just spot on with everything. And I really appreciate that.
I appreciate that, good sir, because I was apprehensive. I knew I was like, I'm going to mess something up. And fortunately, we got all the details right. But before we start anything else, we're both music guys. We're both guitarists. I have to know, you have this fantastic vinyl collection, man. And I had to know what was like the prime, be-all, end-all, protect this with my life vinyl record. Because I have so many stories of trying to find them at a time before it came back. So I have stories of like I found like 2 Iron Maiden records over in Salt Lake City, and then there was one up in North New York, and there's so many stories attributed to finding albums, sitting there, observing the cover art. I wanted to know out of your collection what records hold a special place in your heart. Like, no, I have to keep this one safe. This has the most sentimental value.
Well, that's a really tough question, and basically because when I travel, when I go anywhere to a different city, I try to do a little homework and see if they have a record store, and I go there and I limit myself. I have to limit myself with a budget, otherwise I go completely insane. And so it's pretty cool because I'll be like, oh yeah, I got this record in Paris, or I got this record in New Orleans, and I went to New Orleans last year and I found this 4 vinyl limited edition of Run the Jewels. And yeah, I know it's totally not our genre, but I love that group. And so that's probably one of my favorite recent purchases.
Man, I love that for you. I got to see them at Madison Square Garden opening up for Rage Against the Machine, and I absolutely adore, I'm a big hip hop and heavy rock kid, but I absolutely adore their ability to go back and forth. I think that is probably one of the hardest things to do as a group, as lyricists, to make your rhyme and their rhyme not only work with the song, but also, the back and forth. So that made me excited, man, because you know why? You are aware of reggae. You were dubbed the reggae guy in the band. And the thing that got me to pop, like if I was in the crowd, was that you knew Tootsie. And you knew the history of reggae And you were like, when I heard the interview, he just passed away, and that was a sad moment. But I wanted to know what got you into reggae. Are you still close to it with the newer bands like Revolution? What is your roots for reggae, and how do you feel that's contributed to your overall understanding as a musician?
Well, the reason I got into reggae, there's two reasons that I got turned on to it. And the first thing, I've been to Jamaica a couple times and a long time ago. And when I went there, the rhythms and obviously when you go to somewhere where a genre of music originates, it's a totally a different thing than popping on a Bob Marley album. When you go there and you see local musicians performing and understanding why they're playing that style of music, I was blown away when I went to Jamaica. And this is probably 15, 20 years ago, maybe. I don't even know. But I just the rhythm, the backbeat and rhythm when I went there, I was like, oh my God. And they had these big beach parties, and they were free and they were every night. And I just had a great time. So I switched over to this big reggae thing. And I went through the whole rock thing when I was younger. And I just kind of got a little burned out. So I started going to different genres. And so you're only going to listen to every Zeppelin record so many times, and every Tool record and whatever, and it's just finally you have it all memorized and you go through and I mean, like, and I'm into like Turnstile now. Their new record's really killer that just came out. But in general, my go-to now is reggae. It it makes me relax and it makes me focused and centered, and it's just the vibe of it, and so that's what drew me into that, and I've stayed listening into that genre and learning about toots and those old school reggae records where they're singing out of key, and it's really crazy. But there's so much reggae out there that nobody knows about. It's just it's and you can go to record stores and just go through the sections and you're like, well, this record's like from 1971 and they're doing covers from the US, bebop bands, and just really strange. So that's kind of my take on it, but that's what drew me to reggae. I just like the vibe, and it focuses, it centers me as a person. So it's been a really cool thing, that whole genre.
Because you've been there a couple times, were you able to get a record from Toots and the Mighty Towels or see anything? Because there's this stupid thing I have from growing up where anytime I go somewhere that has a cultural significance to the pop culture that I saw, like Bruce Lee fought Chuck Norris, I got to go to Rome and fight somebody. I went to Arizona and I was like, hey, I got to play, Gone Shooting because that was in the Beavis and Butthead movie. It sounds stupid to other people, but these are rite of passages for me. So when I went to certain places like New York, I was like, yo, I got to get this record here or do this. Were you able to have any experiences like that over in Jamaica, being that that's the center?
That's a good question. In Actually, it was the other way around for me. I went there and got turned on to the music when I was there for the first time, and then I did go back, and it's hard. I mean, unless you're going to like the capital, there's not a lot of music outlets where to buy, and there's vinyl when I was there, but I didn't actually, like I said, I did it in reverse. I went there and fell in love with the culture and the music, and then came back and started collecting. And there's not a lot of people into it, so there's a ton of vinyl that original pressings that are available. So you could get a lot of that stuff in the States, and so I just every time I go to a record store, I'd go to the reggae section and just go, wow, look at this. This is insane. And just buy blind, just totally buy blind and go, wow, that's just a crazy record. And some of them are great, some of them are not so great, but that's part of the journey with vinyl.
And that's the fun part. I really thought this interesting. When you were speaking about influences and how you got into music, of course, somebody asked, like, who was the, trying to get out of you, like, who was the guitar god to you? And you actually named John Bonham as the first prolific rock star that really captivated you with his skills. And it made me wonder why you felt guitar was your voice. Because you can play drums, you can play bass, but there's always that instrument that calls us musicians that we speak like it is just who we are. It is the number one, even if we suck at it, that is the instrument that we speak musically through, that we're most at ease with. Why wasn't it the drums for you? What changed between that time of being in awe and then finding the guitar to be the true calling. Because a lot of us, you know, we see that one person, it's like, oh, I got to play that instrument, and we stick with it.
That's a really good question. I never really thought about it being inside of the situation, but I thought, you know, he was like one of the first musicians I really was like, wow, who's the drummer? And it worked out really cool because I when I was a little kid, I was lucky enough my mother bought me an electric guitar, and it took a little while, but then all of a sudden it clicked and I totally got it. And then my brother got a drum set, and then he was taking lessons from this local drummer in Toledo. And then when the guy that was the teacher would leave, I'd go, you know, run in there and say, "What did you learn? What did you learn?" You know, we were little kids, and so he'd show me, and so he would show me all the beats and tricks and stuff like that with drums. So it worked out well. But yeah, it is kind of strange that how I just thought, you know, somebody's got to put together the song structure with some kind of a instrument that makes notes, and my brother picked up the drums, so it worked out really well. But yeah, it was kind of backwards how I did it. But I knew that if I play guitar, I could start writing songs and structures, and then bring in bass and drums and all that, and structure, you know, rock music.
But it paid off, man. Being able to go play a live gig as kids at 12 and then open up for Zakk Wylde. Like, Wylde, sorry, I'm mixing the names. So close. But that's just something like, that's an anomaly. That's something where you have to kind of recognize, like, you know, even if I didn't know this was the path, you know, it did kind of say, like, hey, here we are. Because to be able to come in, people that have been practicing for so long, it's kind of like Dimebag Darrell said, you know, I just picked it up. And, you know, might have not been easy, but it clicked. Something was correct. Something was spiritually there. So if you could bring us back to the feeling of that day, because we know you guys went first round gig, you know, won, but there's a certain adrenaline, there's a certain fear / excitement that comes with performing, and then being able to perform with somebody on that caliber of Zakk, especially at that time when he was still young and hungry. You know, it's very fascinating to see how, you know, the music has connected you to where you are now.
It was funny because that was like one of our first real gigs, and we came out. We were pretty hard rock at that point, and so we won this battle of the bands, and so we got to open, and there was the music store that put it on was a Gibson dealer, and Zakk Wylde was sponsored by Gibson at the time, so that's why it was in this small town, and he had to do the show because he was in contract with Gibson. So that's how we won the award to open for them. But to see these little kids come out, I can imagine, you know, from the crowd. There's all these heavy rockers with long hair and everything, and we were just little kids come out dressed in black. We got long hair, and just like, what are these guys gonna do? And then just boom, like super heavy rock in your face. Like the first song we play, the singer's just screaming. The people were like, holy wow, what is this? So that was pretty cool, where that's when it's like, okay, this is what it's like to get naturally high. This is the feeling of making energy and creating energy between you and other people, and it becomes this magical moment. And that was a pretty special time when we got to experience that for the first time, you know, as teenagers.
How far is Adrian, Michigan from you guys? Because I believe that was where it was.
From where we're at now, it's about an hour. It's like southern. It's closer to Ohio border. But at the time, we were in a small town called Blissfield, which is like a half hour from there. But there was Toledo and Adrian were the two closest cities, and there was a really nice music store in Adrian. So we would always go there, and they put on the Battle of the Bands situation. And I know that you're a Gibson fan. I'm a Gibson fan. We're both Gibson people, and so that was a Gibson store. And back then I played Fender amps, and they had Fender amps. So it was like, I loved going there every weekend, and I knew the owner and, you know, all that. So, you know, and with music, I mean, you got to be passionate about it. I mean, there's, you know, just most musicians, you're not making a lot of money. You just love doing it. And so that's kind of the backstory of it.
Yeah, but it's such an inherent need too. Like somehow I can't explain it. I'm going through my own musical journey too, but you have this impulse that you have to play or you have to create, and that somehow soothes the soul no matter what's happening. A long time ago, actually, let me ask this first question because the next one's important too. You know, Gibson guys, 100%. You're also a guitar. I want to say hoarder, but that's the term of respect. You know, you collect guitars too. I've noticed my loves for the instruments I have different feels, but there's very specific, like, this instrument I play the best on, this instrument I love the most, this instrument is the most sentimental. You know, that's the one, like, hey, when I'm going, I'm taking it with me. Y'all can have the rest. So I wanted to know which guitar you felt you play the most naturally through. That is the one that, you know, that's kind of the therapy. You've mentioned how playing could be therapy. And then there's the other guitars, like, this is my collections, baby, you know.
That's a good question. That's a great question, actually. I kind of went through kind of a guitar journey as far as what models I played. I started with an SG when I was a teenager. The studio we were recording in, they had an SG there, and he let me use it, you know, because I was playing some cheap metal guitar back then. That's all I could afford. And he let me use it to do a record, and then he let me buy it from him and make payments. So my first guitar was an SG, Gibson SG 1979 or something. So I was an SG guy for, like, I don't know, several years. And then I got into Les Pauls. So now I'm Les Paul guy, several years of Les Paul guy. Then I got into, believe it or not, there was a music store in Ann Arbor, an old timer. He passed away. He's a great guy. But he had I said, give me a guitar that, because I played every kind of guitars, and I've seen it all. I've seen it all at that point. I said, what do you have that's just really different, you know? And he's like, well, hold on a second. And he comes back with a baritone Fender Jaguar. Okay, so it's like, you know, it's got the super heavy gauge strings, the long baritone neck. And I'm like, oh, this is really weird. And it's got the, you know, the single coil pickups. I'm like, this is a crazy guitar. So I detune it and all that and plug it in. I'm like, this is really cool. It's got this really glassy tone and tuned down with a little distortion. I mean, I was like, so I did a record with that setup. And I had a Telecaster that I also use, that I still own, that I love. And then after that, I went into Firebirds. And the reason why is because a Firebird, to me, is like a crossover between a Fender and a Gibson, a single coil and a humbucker, because they have the mini high output pickups in Firebirds, Gibson Firebirds. And so you get that really high end, but if you switch to the low pickup, you're going to get the meaty growl. So I use my toggle a lot and that's what I play now. That's my main instrument. I actually own a couple of the same guitar, just because of the one I own is it's a Guitar of the Week they did back in 2007. And it's made of zebra wood and maple. So it's really heavy and dense. So the tone is really strange. I would almost compare it to like a Martin acoustic guitar. It's really a dead tone, but with it tuned down, and I play through a matchless amp, tube amp, and it just sounds, it's just like so bright, and you can just hear everything that you're doing, and any movements and anything at all, it picks it up. And I got the pickup set as high as I can get them to the strings without them deadening out. And I've got a great guitar tech in Ann Arbor. He's a great friend of mine. He worked at the Gibson factory originally, and he sets everything up for me. And so, yeah, now my main guitar is a Gibson Firebird Guitar of the Week. It's zebra wood and maple, and Firebirds are the neck through, so it's all one piece of wood in the middle, and then the wings are glued on. That's how they make those guitars. So the sustain is amazing on that. It's like Rickenbacker basses are made that way too. The neck through, it's all one piece, and then they glue the wings on. But the sustain on those instruments are amazing. So that's what I'm playing now. That would be like, okay, yeah, I would never sell that guitar. And I have a backup of it, but I like the main one better. It's pretty beat up because it's my real guitar. So that's my main guitar. And, you know, I have another guitar. I have a couple guitars that I really love and probably will never sell. And then I have a couple basses, and I have too much stuff.
No, you are good, sir. You don't have enough. Let's get this in perspective.
You're right. I mean, look at Keith Richards. He has like a full semi of just guitars. He tours with like 2,000 to 3,000 guitars on a tour. So you just compare it to that, and you're fine.
Was that guitar, your main guitar, now the one that dropped from D to open C? That had to be, even if you don't believe in whatever, man, that is one of the coolest stories of just, you know, randomly living life and then just, oh, look at that. And then it being such an important role in what you do.
Yeah, it was. And I bought that guitar. It's the only guitar that I've ever bought without playing it first. And I ordered it, and they only made 100 of them that year or that week. And I just ordered it. I'm like, whatever. You know, it looked really cool. I love natural wood, and it was all natural, exotic wood. And so I just ordered it, and it came in. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I was still a Les Paul guy at the time. So I just set it up, and it sat there forever. And then that's what happened. It just detuned, and I picked it up, plugged it up, like, oh my God, this is changing. This changes everything. And then all of a sudden I'm writing, you know, you're coming up with chords that, you know, chords on an open tuning is not a normal thing. So you're kind of writing your own chord structure, so to speak. So it was a strange journey, but it worked out pretty good.
Where were you theory-wise? I've been bragging about this to people recently, but I want to say maybe 2 months ago. I don't know if I had a midlife crisis or I was freaking out, but something in my head it was literally like a board snapping, like a martial arts breaking of wood, where I was playing and I knew the concepts, I knew the finger movements, I knew this is what it is, but for some reason, all of a sudden I'm playing and all of a sudden I felt that snap in my head, and then it made sense. All the years of learning theory to an extent, all the practice, all of a sudden now things are combining together. Still a little bit, not fluent in the theory, but the concept of what somebody is doing on guitar now is just opened. It's like the patch has been peeled from my eyes. Where were you in that journey? Because once you get past drop D, if you don't know the steps of a guitar, the theory can be really, really a struggle.
Well, the first thing was to get the instrument set up right. Not only the guitars, but the bass guitar too, and getting the right gauges, using different gauges and having the guitar set up right. I mean, I think we went through 4 or 5 different gauges on the bass to get that where it was playable, but it sounded good, but worked in that open drop C. And so going through that with our guitar tech, Tom Pellerito, that was kind of a fun process. And we finally, we got to a great point, which we still use now. And, but yeah, I mean, I hear exactly what you're saying, where there comes a point where, if you're lucky, and I've had a couple moments like that, where it's like, all of a sudden you don't even have to think about what you're going to play. It's just like your mind the instrument is a part of who you are, and you can just not even think about it and play it. And I think it's just a matter of how much time you do something, you know, the 10,000 hour theory or whatever it is, then you mastered something. I don't know if that's true or not, but so yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, where you break through and it's just like all of a sudden it's the magical moment where you just like can rip something out that's just like, whoa, wow, that felt great. And that was easy, but complicated probably for someone else. So yeah, it was a cool journey, and just to do something different. I mean, to do in different tunings. That's why I always suggest try different tunings and try different things. And I did a bunch of stuff with slide, hard rock with slide, and that was fun, especially with open tunings. And so yeah, that was kind of the journey of that, and it worked out.
Yeah, shout out to Tom, man. We appreciate our techs. They are lovely people. Man, because I love how you beautifully put that, because that's part of the beauty of guitar. You know, there's something you can do that I can't do. I doubt there's anything I can do that you can't. But that's how we gauge. You know, you see like the most simple players, and it's like, you know, I can't really play slow, and then you see like the fast spitters, metal thrash, flying. It's like, damn, that's fantastic. I always love that about the instrument. There's always something that somebody can say like, hey, I can do this pretty well, even if somebody else can't. You know, with my experience in my friend groups, I grew up in a town it was mixed. It was a little bit of, you know, civilization, farmland. But one of my really good friends, he grew up in farmland, Virginia. Nothing but hills and miles of farmland. And he really gravitated to metal, hard rock. Nirvana's his favorite band. And I've seen a trend with him and others like him, these kids that grew up in farm towns that just have a need to express something. Sometimes they're depressed, sometimes like, hey, you know what, there's nothing around here. What are we going to do? I want to live my life. But there's always this feeling of animosity and the need to go out and, you know, do something. You know, you said playing was therapy. Playing is therapy. I wanted to know, when you were growing up in your situation, was any part of you living where you were connected to the importance of that music, like I've seen with other people? It's a fascinating concept I've come up with, but I can't explain it.
I would say that being in a situation where you have limited access to equipment and studios and effects and instruments of whatever you're using for the genre you're playing, but being limited on what you have in front of you and making work what you have in front of you can make, I think, create compression as a person and as a musician and make you better, because you have to use what you have because you don't have access to a lot of things. And I had this conversation with the producer, Josh Schroeder, who just did our last record, the record we're promoting. And he grew up in a small town in Canada in the middle of nowhere. And we had a pretty deep conversation about it and how it can shape a producer or a musician. He was a musician first, but having limited, so I've got this pedal and this pedal, I've got this amp, this, how can I make these things sound the best I can do? We're going to try everything, you know, switch the pedals, do this, whatever it is. And I think that really shaped understanding and working and knowing equipment and making it sound the best, where it's not noisy, it's not a problem, it's grounded, and all these different things that are important on the road. Being able to eliminate something quickly so it doesn't ruin your set, people don't know there's a problem. And I think that kind of growing up in that situation kind of created that for the people, for myself, my brother, and people in our band. But even the producer on the last record, having that conversation was cool to have the conversation like with you right now about it. And someone who's, you know, been through that, especially when you're younger, you don't have any money, and, you know, I mean, until you get a car and all that, and so you're working with what you got, and that's it. and at the time, it's very frustrating. But if you know, since I look back on it now, I think it's molded our band, and it molded our producer on the last record to become better at what you do and what you have, because you are what you're playing, and whatever amp you're using, it's what it'll sound like, and whatever guitar you're using, that's what it'll sound like. So kind of ties into the last question that you had too.
Brilliantly. I just think of Dave Ellison's story with like same situation, farmland, gotta get out, back to Cali. So, you know, before I do want to hit the record, I want to hit it in bold, but I really want to express the love and appreciation and respect your bandmates have for you, especially Riccardo. You did an interview with him, and you know, he even apologized. I'm sorry, I know I'm talking too much, but the level of respect and care that he talked about everybody in the band, you in particularly, I wanted to know why you guys were such a good mesh when you initially invited him into the band, when you guys came through, because he himself, very, very musically minded, very in depth with not the kamikaze, the fugazi, and the other, like, obscure rock. You guys do know who Baroness is. That to me is like, yo, that's all. Yep, I heard enough. I heard you knew the Sword and all these other great acts that the normal rock public don't know and are missing out on. What was the first time you met him? And why do you think he just is so happy to be with you guys? What about that musical itch? Was it the open C? He was like, oh, a challenge? When you told him, like, hey, this is how we write. And he was like, no problem.
That's exactly his attitude. It was like, this guy's awesome. And it's funny, I was working in downtown Ann Arbor, and I'd go to the same little coffee shop every day. And there was a guy that was the barista there, and he was a really cool cat. And I know he played bass or something like that. And I said, yeah, we're looking for another guitar player, somebody can sing. And he's like, oh, my buddy Riccardo does, He's like, I'll give him his number, give him a call. I said, all right, cool. This guy's cool. So this other guy's probably cool too. So I call Riccardo up, leave a message. Hey man, give me a call. We're playing music. Just want to hang out, whatever. Like, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 weeks later, he calls me back. He's like, man, I'm really sorry about taking so long to get back to you. I'm like, no problem, dude. So we get together, and I'm like, okay, yeah, just like what you said. I was like, we're doing a drop C open tuning. And he's like, oh, that's no problem. I'm like, sweet. So we just dig in, and we had a couple tunes written. And Riccardo is an amazing songwriter. He looks at things the way people do not look at things. So he is a very talented songwriter. And so is Gabby and Kurt and Adam too, with the rhythm section they come up with on these songs. So yeah, you're right. And I think it's so important to have respect for each other, and it really does become a second family. And so I really care about everybody in the band, and we all care about each other first and foremost before the music. And I think that was the foundation of, let's get to know each other a little bit, and then everybody's open to everybody's ideas. And that's how this last record came to be. Finally, it felt like Gabby joined the band, and everyone came to the table and listened to everyone else. And I think this is the best record that we've done because of that, the way that it was written, and everyone was involved in every step of the way. It was all recorded live, and the drums are live. There's nothing fake on the entire thing. Everything is sung, no tuning, none of that. Everything is so, and we could do that with Josh Schroeder, and he really pulled that out of the band. But yeah, I'm lucky in that way to have some great friends and family that you can play music with, and rock out.
Hopping over to Resist the Divide, man, loved it. I loved it. And you guys have done so many LPs. You guys have done EPs, LPs. You've been building to this moment. And in other interviews, you've stated that how Gabby was kind of the final piece, because you guys wanted a little bit more harmony. You wanted a piano player, which I think is great. Piano and rock is kick-ass. So with this iteration, as you said, everybody listened to everybody. It took some time to get her, to feel it, because everybody has their own inspirations. You guys are just the melting pot of different musical influence. Beck said one time, if you get one song off a record you can play live, you got a good record. And I'm also sitting here like, well, you can play every song off this record live, and you got a good live and good record. So I wanted to know what song off of this album to you feels like, if you had to pick one, that was the song, for whatever reason, you would say this is our offering to the world. This is who we are in the painstaking process of musicians that think differently coming together.
When we initially recorded the record, I would have a different opinion. But now that the record's done and we played these songs live, because some of them we'd never played live until the record was finished, I would really say that I gravitate toward The Source now. I think that song it's really great live. It's got a great groove. It was a challenge for us to get that rhythm that Gabby came up with on that. And I think it's a really cool groove. And it took us a minute, but once Kurt and Adam got that back locked in, I was just like, it's just really awesome live. It's really fun to play. And so that would be, at least for now, that's the track I would gravitate toward.
her melodic presence is how you guys said it. And when I listened to it, I was like, how it's the fine details of her playing with you guys. Because when I listened to the other albums, I'm like, I'm still hearing what are they talking about? It took a long time for me to finally hear that difference in the change. I want to say tempo. I might be BSing you at this point, but there is a feel to certain songs depending on what you're going for. The one I thought was going to be the single was Shade. The elements of that just screamed like world in your face, and I thoroughly enjoyed listening to that. What was your thoughts of Shade as far as its construction? As far as I'm talking the piece by piece, chorus, lyrics, like how did that go for you, sir?
Well, I feel like that we could actually hang out together now because I wrote the main part of that song. So that song that's a great song, and it's got the end of it's got my brother Kurt. He's a huge Helmet fan. We grew up with the band Helmet, and the end of that song has got a real Helmet vibe to it, and it's a real groover. You're right. That song's fun, and we don't play it live that often, but that's cool that you love that song. That's cool. I appreciate that.
See, that's a song I would have played live. That's a song that I was like, you know what? That's a song. And then hold on, if I remember correctly, it was Elusive. I loved that one because
I love that song too.
So am I wrong with this thinking? There's a lot of palm. It's not palm muting. You're not muting it completely, but you're playing with the palm, but you're still getting off the harmony, which I love. I'm a Maiden dude. I love my harmonies. Forget the rest of the song. So I really enjoyed that portion of how you guys were able to formulate, like going back and forth between the mute, the clean, the mute, rough, and it was just my favorite part of the album. Was that you too? Did you come up with that too, or do we gotta give Card, everybody else a little bit of love on this one for Riccardo?
No, that's a good point. And this is another example of when you're inside of it. I've never even thought about it. When you're just doing it, you don't really think about it. So, it almost comes back to like the band Helmet again, where they did a lot of that. Like the verses are real tight, palmed out, and then it opens up. And I really love that when it builds like that, especially with two guitars when we're doing harmonies with the high stuff like in Elusive. But yeah, that's that. You're totally right, and I think I can't remember if Gabby or Riccardo. I think they wrote that together. But yeah, and then me and Kurt will go like, okay, let's try to bring the verses down, way down, and then so we'll mute it out, and then open it up into and then we try and like, oh yeah, that's good, that's perfect. So it is kind of funny how all the members have come in together like that and form that song like that because of who's in the band.
For Josh now, we going to the producer. My man has worked with some of the best, and you praised him like Riccardo praised you. Just the dude that kind of old school, like he really will make you sit there, do it over, do it over, do it over. We're gonna get this from you. Do it over, do it 2 + 2. Come on. What do you mean? We're doing 5 + 5? No, 2 + 2, then 5 + 5. You're like, God, like Jesus, but. Individuals like that, I always think of my mentor who did the same thing for me when I was just stressed out my mind, wasn't going anywhere, like career future bleak as hell in this industry. And he was like, what are you doing? Come run the board for me. I did that, man, overnight for a year, running the board, recording myself, doing the same take over and over again. And I had to wait at least 3 years before I could see the progress of what he was making me do. And obviously you guys have seen what he's implemented. I wanted to know what was your breaking moment with him, because just like as I mentioned Maiden, Bruce Dickinson screaming, trying to get the scream off Number of the Beast, just like me freaking out in the booth like what can I do differently, what the hell, when you're removed from it finally and you get what you need and you hear it, you're like, oh shoot, damn, it's another experience.
That's a great question as well. And what was different about this recording, his recording method, which is very interesting, is that we would dial in the tone of all the instruments when you're recording them, before you're recording them. So in the past, when working with, top producers before, known producers, they'll just say, okay, set your stuff up, play it. Okay, we got it. And then they mess with it and they'll EQ it and tweak it and everything. Josh would do that with you on the spot. So your pre-production, almost like a pre-production in the recording of the recording. So you go in and it can be frustrating because we're trying to get the bass tones for a half a day. We'll spend a half day just getting the right tone. And it's like, it's not there. It's not right. It's not right. It's not right. It's not right. Finally, okay, we're going to try this other equipment, try this compressor, do this. Okay, there. It's perfect. It sounds great. So in the end, the record was almost totally mixed by the time we were done tracking. So the instruments are all done and we're doing the vocals and going back and forth and giving people breaks. But by the end of the recording, we did it in a month. And by the end of the recording, it was 95% mixed, which I've never done a record like that. That's how Josh does it, which I think is very effective because you know exactly what you're going to get and you're getting the tone that the musician wants for his or her instrument while you're there. Instead of going, okay, I'll see you in 2 weeks when I'm done mixing it. This thing's like, it's going to be done in a few days at this point. We've done all the work on the fly. So that was the difference with Josh, which was really effective. And it was really cool because he pulled out the tones that you wanted as a musician. So you got that snare tone, that kick drum, the cymbals, whatever. We're changing everything, mic positioning and everything like that, guitar tones to get what you wanted out of that. Even with the vocal singing, let's try this mic, step back further. Let's try this mic, do this. Okay, that's the one. You know, Gabby and Rick are happy with it, with their vocal sound. This is the mic. Okay, this sounds great. Let's record now. So getting the right thing before even hitting record was the difference in this record. And that's why it feels live in all the guitars and bass and drums and keys and vocals represent. When you go see us live, we're going to sound like that.
And you know what? That just made me. That is so brilliant. I know it sounds ridiculous out loud, but
no, it's crazy. I've never done a record like that. And you would think, well, why wouldn't you do it like this? Because then you know you've got a great tone. You don't have to go in and make some. Like my guitar doesn't sound like that ever. You know, when you hear it mixed back on previous records, like I don't sound like that at all live. You know, so this record we sound like this live. So it was pretty cool.
But it's like sound. I understand the process of like, hey, we're here to record. You know, you're making us do a little extra work. But now I'm like, it's basically just sound check at this point. Let's do sound check, and then you know, the fact that you're done at the, I can just think of all the horror stories. It's like, man, we turned it in, we got back something we did not like. It's crazy, exactly. Right? See, like it's like, why didn't we not think of this?
It's like crazy. This is such a simple solution, but it really worked. I mean, I was, and I've never been in a recording studio, and I've recorded in LA and New York and all over the place, and I've never had that kind of producer before. So that's what I was getting to. Yeah.
You know why they do it? It's because of the money. I'm just thinking because back in the day you didn't have money.
Right.
So now it's like, now we're just so like, oh my gosh, I need to say hello to Josh. But
oh, he's a great guy. He would totally reach out to you. He's just so down to earth, and his studio is below his house. It's, I mean, just beautiful setup, and what a great guy, and what a talented musician. He plays every instrument. He's a great drummer. He's got a great drum kit. We just had a great time. I mean, it was just one of the greatest recording experiences I've ever had.
You know, something that I find interesting and funny. Every time you guys mention the band, nobody wants to mention Kurt's name, man. Nobody says it until like they have to. And I'm sitting here like, yo, as the dude who's doing your social media and the website and doing all the cover art, that'd be the first person I want to say, unless my name ends up missing on the cover art, you know?
We're lucky to have him for sure. Not only is he an awesome drummer, he's an excellent graphic designer. He does it for a living, and he's very particular. And so we're very lucky to have him do the artwork and all that stuff. And he's always open-minded on opinions and all that too. So we're lucky in that way.
And Adam as well, because you guys grew up with him and you guys have stayed friends. Finding a friend to last that long, even after everything you've done, it's still a blessing. And I was thinking, you know, you've been compared a lot to all the other brothers in rock bands, and you know, everybody knows the stories, big squabbles, little squabbles, but you said something that was very real. And you said that you barely agree on everything, but you know what the other's thinking. But over time, you guys were able to minimalize the headbutting, the back and forth. I wanted to know if there was like a moment where you kind of realized, like, you know what, we're doing a lot better than what we would have done like 3 days ago. But it got heated, you know. So I wanted to know how time has been able to help you guys understand, like, hey, you know what, we're a little bit more mature. Let's handle this differently. And having been with Adam for the same amount of time, has it been the same style of communication with him? Being that at this point, I would consider him blood for you guys as well.
Absolutely. And, you know, at the end of the day, the answer to basically all that, because, you know, when we're younger and there's drumsticks flying at my head and things like that, which is all funny now, you know, but those things happen, and that's how it goes. You know, that's life. People fight. And I still think once in a while, you got to have it out. That's just, at least be open instead of holding it in. And sometimes that can be an argument and a fight, but it's better to get it out than hold it in, because that relationships aren't going to last that way. But at the end of the day, what really changed was, especially after playing together for so many years, is, you know, at this point, we all know what we can do, and we all know that we know what we're doing. So just present the song. Adam, you do what you want. You do what you do best on bass. Here's the song. Here's the song idea. Kurt, here's the song idea. Riccardo or Gabby or whoever came up with. What are you going to do with it? And just keep your opinion, and maybe come out later instead of, you know. And I was an older brother when we were younger, and, you know, the older brother thing where you're trying to tell people what to do and stuff, and it just wasn't sometimes not positive. So now everyone's much more open-minded, and there's still tense points, like in this, trying to learn that rhythm section in the source, but at the end we got a great track out of it. So they're not all easy, but in A Place You Lie is the same thing. We had a hell of a time with the rhythm on that. Riccardo came up with a guitar riff in the beginning. We could not, for the life of us, come up with the rhythm section for that. And finally, Kurt just put the power stomp on it, and I did a drop. Riccardo's up high, I'm playing the low octave down, and it just went together beautifully. So just sometimes you just gotta let it work itself out and not push each other. And that has been much better that way, instead of, you know, when we were younger, we did fight a lot, but, you know, that's brothers. That's how it goes.
You have this responsibility subconsciously as the oldest, or sometimes the youngest. I've seen it in both families, where you have to step up. You're desperately trying to do the good for everybody, and sometimes it comes out wrong or it doesn't go that way. But that somewhere in the back of your mind, you have this responsibility because you love everyone. You love what you're doing. It's, you know, you don't want to fail. This album, especially for the lyrics with Resist the Divide, there was mention that the first single had connotations to dealing with addiction, and other lyrics in the album about fighting and trying to bring yourself back. It's one of those brilliantly, like, this is supposed to be dark, but it makes me happy dark. Like, that's the vibe. Like, hey, I've said it before, like, something about these non-Christian bands that are like, Hail Satan, God hates us all. I'm like, wow, that makes me believe in Jesus. I feel like God is here. How could you, you know, just... quick story, I apologize, I might cut this. I was at an Overkill show. My favorite song by them is Deny the Cross. And the dude in the crowd knew I went to school for biblical studies. So I'm talking, you know, they start playing Deny the Cross. I was like, I told you God is real, bitches. he was so like, I apologize. He didn't deserve to be called that word. But I the joy, because the music for me is that representation of a higher power, of a goodness. You know, I just can't fathom something bad coming from something that it still feels pure to an extent. Now,
I totally get it.
You know,
100%.
Now, if it was like Mayhem, they're a little different. I gotta stay clear of that. That's a little different, but we can hop over here to other Norwegian metal. But the point I wanted to make for this album, I apologize, I went on that tangent. You just got me happy. There has been alluding to that there were struggles with these concepts, and I do feel like Gabby coming in, even though it hasn't been stated, has been a big help in helping the band recover by contributing to create this album for this concept. I wanted to know, if you're at liberty, what were those addictions? What were those problems? Was it just the basic grind of trying to do this like AC/DC, Highway to Hell? Like, we're doing this every day, man. We're dying here. We're broke. Or was it more of like, no, one of us was struggling and they fought back to get their life, and this is a representation of them making it and continuing to fight every day?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Gabby and Riccardo wrote most of the lyrics, but it's kind of funny when you're with people and around people, and everyone was totally on the same page and understanding what the message was, and all of us go through different things like that. If it was alcohol or relationships or, and all of us had different things like that we were struggling with while we were writing this. And so the way that it came out with the lyrics was pretty appropriate. And I think all of us are in a pretty good place right now, but life it's hard being a human. It really is. So we find ourselves destroying ourselves sometimes. And so this was a really a good way to get some of that out. And like you said, it's a hard rocker. I mean, there's some heavy music there, but we are focusing on a positive view and a positive message, and hopefully that comes out and is helpful for someone. If it was helpful for one person, it was worth it.
Got your one right here, man. We're gonna get a couple others too. We'll got you right. Another thing, because I was trying to tie in this album to that concept, and the band's name has also been something that the story of how it was incepted is kind of alluded to. You guys don't give too many details, but it's like, just, I always think of a typewriter. That's not how you guys put it, but you're typing on the typewriter, hits the page, and then you have this note. And the way you guys described it just makes me think of like the musical typewriters that no longer exist. Same thing, like, and then you got the note on the paper. Is it as simple as that? Was it somebody that just... I always feel like the reason people love the stories behind the name of the band is because that really sets the ethos. That sets the expectation, the illusion, the grandeur. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's as simple. It's like, oh, that was an album, and it's like, oh, well, let me continue the journey, and then they get that album. Was it just one of you guys back in the days like, man, this is like paper on bread, and then it's like, you know what, this would be a good band name. Hold on, let me. We got tricky. We got black Note Graffiti, not paper on bread, but was it? I guess I'm trying to say is, was the origin of the name of the band also part of the connection to the ethos of this album?
I think so. For me, it was. Originally, there's several different theories on the name, and I don't know which one's true, but like Riccardo explains it as more like what you're explaining, the notes on a page. And for me, it's more of like, me and Kurt and Adam, the rhythm section played together so long. We were like the black note. And then we brought in Riccardo and Gabby, and they're the graffiti on top of that. So that's kind of my take on it. So yeah, everyone's got that's kind of where it's at for me right now.
That is so great. Forget his. I love Riccardo. We probably gelled the easiest. That is so great. And a little bit of piano too, man. Still musical. I love it. You guys got a couple of dates coming up. And you're going back to Michigan, hometown. That is where you're at. You guys are doing MC5 right. You're doing Ted Nugent right. Iggy Pop, shout out. But I really wanted to know, what is it about Toronto you guys have such a good connection with? Because it's Michigan and Toronto. You guys, I think it is Actually, I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm gonna try and find it in a second if I can't. The power cut. Oh no, that's what happened at the gig. Gabby's first gig, the power cut at the club. You guys.
Oh yeah, that was South by. That was in Austin.
So what is it with that venue in Canada? What is it with the venue that you guys continue to go to? What were your first experiences? What do you like about them? Because there's a couple in Philly, there's a couple in Tampa that I'm just like, you know what? If we ever play, we're going here.
Yeah, Toronto's got a great rock scene, and Michigan's basically junior Canada, pretty much. I mean, so the people in Toronto really cool. They've got a great rock scene there. We played a bunch of music festivals there. They've got this really great dive bar. We love playing there, the Bovine Sex Club. And it's not an actual sex club. Maybe it was years ago. I don't know. But it's a rock club now. At least I didn't see any sex going on. But there was lots of drinking and rock and roll. I can tell you that much. And we were just really well received. And there was a couple music executives in that town that took a shining to us and kept inviting us back, North by Northeast and Canadian Music Week and several things like that. And it's such a great diverse city. I would recommend it to anybody. And the music scene's great. I mean, COVID kind of killed some of the clubs there, but it's starting to come back. And we had some great times there. I mean, they're just no joke. And Canadians, I mean, shout out to Canada, shout out to Toronto. They're the nicest people. And there's a funny story where if a Canadian says sorry, they'll say sorry. That's really, they're telling you off. So, and we're getting this explained to by the Canadians. So we just love that town. But yeah, we have a good time there. But yeah, we got coming up Mile of Music. That's in Appleton, Wisconsin. It's in the middle of nowhere. And it's a free week-long music festival. I think there's over 300 artists. And the level of treatment that the artists get at this festival is unbelievable. You get lodging. It's all indie artists, and there's no covers. You can't play any covers. It's got to be all originals. You get meals every day. They have a psychiatrist. They have a dentist. I'm not kidding. And you just make an appointment, and they take care of all the musicians like that. And they have a hall where they have food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And there's all these moms in there volunteering, and they just take care of you like they're you walked in your grandma's house. And I'm just like, this is insane. So this is I think our third time playing this festival, and it's one of the coolest festivals. It was featured in the Rolling Stone a few years ago as one of the top festivals. And again, it's free, and it's in a tiny town, and all there is bars and churches in this town. And they closed 1 mile of the main road down, and you just walk. You get the program. I want to see this band, this band, this band all day long for a week. So that's going to be, we love that festival. Absolutely amazing. And they have cricket shots there. And yeah, cricket shots. And that's our favorite venue. It's a shot of tequila where you do, and I might be getting this order wrong. Riccardo found this. We go into this bar. Bartender's great. We're just having a few cocktails before a show. And so I think you do the lime, then, you do the shot, the lime, and then you eat a dried cricket. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's actually amazing.
Well, it's like
so that's when we go to Appleton, we go to this tequila bar and do this drink. All of us, as like, we're not getting, we're just doing one just for nostalgia. But yeah, we love that. And that's coming up August 1st and 2nd. And
don't forget the new Dodge Lounge in Hamtramck. And then there's the Ziggy's. I don't know where this place is at. It's Ziggy's, but it's in Ipsalanti.
Pronounced Ipsalanti. You were close. Ipsalanti. And he was some kind of a military person years ago. But Ypsilanti is actually where Iggy Pop was really from. He went to high school there. And then he ended up in Ann Arbor, which is right next door. It's like 10 minutes. They border to each other, Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti. There's a university there too. So they're two university towns right next to each other.
Back to the idea of coast to coast, man. Los Angeles, but you've toured outside of the States too. You've been all over. You know, I wanted to know because how close and special I feel music is in Philadelphia, and just the sheer importance it has, just like New Orleans, just like, you know, the LA Strip. There's a lot of music diverse in Philadelphia, just like not as much as New York. New York got its little own thing going on, but Philly has been a staple for me as far as like when I think of United States history, pop culture moments in sports. But to me, the music scene has always been that.
I totally agree. Is the band Turnstile from Philly?
I want to say yes. I want to say yes.
It might be. I'm like into their new record right now, and I don't usually listen to a lot of rock anymore, but those guys are hot, man. Those guys are just on, and so I'm gonna do my little push on them right now. But yeah, unfortunately, we've never actually played in Philly. We've done New Jersey and New York, but well, I'd love to go there. I'd love to play there.
Man, they're gonna do you right. It's not gonna be as loving as, you know, that I'm still in awe of that festival. I'm about to sign up. I'm a solo artist, but you know, it's okay, man. Jersey's great too. I love Jersey. I love New York. There's like an energy of danger there, and I thrive off of the chaos. A negative times a negative equals a positive. In your travels, I always love telling people that meeting your heroes can be actually really great. I've met a lot of people that were my heroes, and I met a lot of people that weren't my heroes. And even the ones that the rumors, the reputation of they're a terrible person, they will treat you like trash, by the grace of destiny and God, they treated me with such kindness. I wanted to know if you had a moment like that while you were traveling. Either it was intentional and you wanted to go see a show, or you were at, you know, just at the record store and lo and behold, so-and-so walked in and you're like, holy crap. Have you had any of those experiences in your travels?
Yeah, we were playing a show somewhere in Detroit, and there was Corrosion and Conformity was opening for Danzig, downtown Detroit. Yeah, so we went into the show and we caught the end of Corrosion Conformity, and I'm a huge Corrosion Conformity fan. And I love the guitar player. He's a great guitar player. I think his name's Pepper Keenan, I think, and he also plays in Down. And anyway, so we saw half of their show, and they were amazing. And then Danzig came on, and they had no amps. It was all digital, and it sounded absolutely terrible. It was the worst show I've ever seen. And it wasn't the band's fault. It's just the sound just was not together. And anyway, so Danzig gets done, and we're standing in the lobby, me, Kurt, and Adam, and Pepper, the guitar player for Corrosion, comes out, and I walk over and I go, was that set absolutely terrible? And he goes, that was absolutely the worst show I've ever seen. The sound was so bad. And he was so cool. And we hung out with him for a little bit, got some photos with him. And he was just a really down to earth, cool dude, Pepper Keenan. And so that was cool. That just popped in my head. That was a great little meeting with somebody where if you didn't know who he was, you would just have a beer with the guy and you wouldn't even know what was going on. But he was really a humble and approachable character.
Is there anything particular for this band you really want done live for when you guys play? And it could even be like, we have to play this song. This is the song that's going to get us out there. Or Gabby, you do this little thing with your voice for this. Please do this. Because what I found fun, back to the show, the first time you guys played with Gabby, the power went out and you guys adjusted a song, and then from there, every time you guys perform that song, if you could please relate what it was, you guys now do it in that style because of that.
That's true. That happened in Canada, and the power went out, and Gabby and Riccardo kept singing the chorus in one of our songs from a previous record, and so then we're like, wow, that was pretty cool. So it's like, the band, this big rock band, drops out and there's just vocals. And then the power came back on and it just came right back in. And we're like, whoa. So then we started playing the song like that because it worked so well. That was pretty cool. So, but for me, I'm a gear guy. So for me, using at least our amp heads, and we use all of our own microphones, specific microphones for each of us. I think Riccardo uses a Sennheiser 935, and Gabby uses a Beta 58, and I use a Beta 57. And, Kurt's pretty particular with his drums, and Adam always uses his Mesa Boogie head. And so we're pretty, for me, it's the gear, because I know we're going to get what we, when you're doing these festivals, a lot of times they frown upon, they're like, you got to use the backline, dude. It's just way too much time to switch over. And I'm like, no, it's not going to, it's actually going to be quicker. We're going to have everything set up. We're going to throw it right in, and we're going to be on quicker than if we use your gear. Don't worry. So usually I try to be super nice to the sound, whoever's doing the sound. I used to do sound too. So they become part of the band. If the sound is bad, the band's bad, as we were just talking about dancing. So that's, with me, that's the live thing that's important to me. Have communication with the sound and lights. And from there, make sure they know what we have. We need 3 DIs, 3 vocals up front, this. Okay, got it. And we have our equipment. And to me, at least you're in your realm and you're out of the gate comfortable somewhat, no matter what your situation. And for me, that's helpful, that everyone in the band is comfortable, including the sound tech. And so that's my take on the live thing.
How many times have you run into issues with sound guys live, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, I've dealt with that a lot of times. And the majority of the time, there's 2 things. Like you said, somebody's going to have an attitude. Maybe they're having a bad day. But if they got an attitude, you're in trouble. Secondly, if they just don't know what they're doing, they don't know music. They don't care about music. They're going to get their $200, $100, and they're going to leave. They're going to set it and leave. I hate that. That's like a pet peeve for me, where you set it. And I get it. Some of the stuff you can do that with, but like, they just, okay, everything's on. I'm going to go get a cigarette. I'll be back after the set. It's like a pet peeve for me. Anyways, one time we were playing in Austin at South by, and as we're doing this low tuning, and a lot of times with this low tuning, it pulls more electricity. So we blew the club's their power box. It blew the electrical box, because we got keys, bass, 808s dropping, boom, and then open C, and we shut the whole place down. The power is gone. It's off. And we're like, dude. So from there on, I'm like, what is the deal? So not only were the power boxes broken that we were plugged into, they were triggered, but the power to the whole bar went out. So this takes 20, 30 minutes to figure out what's going on. They find the power box, and it's South by Southwest, so it's completely insane. There's people everywhere. It's packed. They get the power box. We get the power boxes back on, and we start playing. Well, everything is very timed there. So we ended up getting a time for like a song and a half. And the sound guy just shuts us off. Like, for real, shuts the board down. And I thought Adam was going to kill this guy.
That's respectful.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, it's like, and I'm explaining to this guy, I'm like, we just came 2,000 miles. We've got like 4 shows in 2 days. And this is one of the shows. And you're telling me that we're done. And it was almost like a full out battle. I mean, it was not good. So from there out, they make these high powered kilowatts or whatever it is. It's I can't remember the term, but it's a power box that can take so many joules. It's like 30,000 joules or whatever it is. And so I switched to those boxes on the road, and we've never had a problem since. But everyone has to plug into those boxes, their gear. So that was not a good time with the sound person. That was probably the worst situation. But yeah, you never know. It's either they're just not a nice person, or they just don't know what they're doing. And those 2, if you get in that situation, you're in trouble. I try to be as nice as possible. At least you can get something out of them, or tell them what to do, or help them understand what you need. So yeah, that's my take on live sound.
I don't know what I would have done. Experience says I would have done the right thing. My head says throw the bass. Because, man, forget, like, you understand. There's just certain rules of decorum in anything you do. And for that, I'm like, You didn't give a warning? You didn't put up the 5 minutes? You didn't say, this is done, you're just going to cut someone off like that after we just helped you figure this out? Come on.
Absolutely. And we didn't get a warning at all. And not only that, he cut the sound off in the middle of the second song. So it's like, you gotta be kidding me. And we were like the last act, and there was no other acts, but we still, the club was still open for a while. So he was just like a union guy. I'm working from 11 to midnight and I'm gone. So it's just like, man, I could never do that to someone. I mean, I'm just trying to think, how could you actually be a human being and do this to this young band playing this show from whoever knows where they're from, and you treat somebody like that? It was just like unbelievable. But you're right. We took the high road. Everyone kind of calmed down, but everyone was pretty upset, as you can imagine.
Karma has a fun way of getting back at people. We all just hope and pray something happens.
Exactly.
But the scars, Chicks Dig the Scars. That's one of your scars.
That's the name of the song that we took the chorus out when the power went off. Scars. That's it.
This is a fantastic interview.
Perfect.
Sir, I always ask the most important question. I want to ask so much more, but this is super important. What's the best advice you've ever been given?
Something that I guess that stands out to me is I was doing a recording with the singer from the band Sponge, which is a Detroit band. And, we came in young, and all our gain on the guitars were just full throttle. And he walks over to this Marshall stack or whatever we were recording with, takes the gain button and just goes, turns it to like 50, then takes the volume, turns the volume up. And he goes, now let me show you something. Come back, record this. Now come back into the control room. And it was the tone was so much thicker. So from there out, I was very careful on how much gain you use. It can really destroy a guitar player's tone. And that was like, wow. That was especially in the studio. And it changed my whole outlook on, because I'm like, oh yeah, gain, gotta have gain. That's metal, that's rock, It can be thicker with less gain, and it can sound a lot better. I mean, obviously we love some gain, but then I really got into tube amps and just cranking tube amps volume instead of using distortion all the time. And that's where I'm at now, which is hard on the ears, but the tone is to really break up an amp. The full throttle tube amp is like I love that. So that's one lesson that I learned from Vinn-E Dombroski from Sponge. Great guy.
It's a fantastic idea. Like, maybe less is more, or more is more.
Exactly.
Both are working.
I was just like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that?
Back to the decorum. Like, why are you touching my stuff, bro? Like, oh no. Right. But to be comfortable enough to be like, hey, I got something, and I gotta back it up. That's fantastic, ladies and gentlemen. That was so fun. That is Kris Keller, Black Note Graffiti. Go tag yourself, get a tattoo, tag your car, get the sticker. They are dropping the hottest album you can listen to right now, guys. Resist the Divide. It's out now. Go check it out. And then you can also catch them on tour. The closest date to John currently, they are playing Havoc Fest August 23rd in Jacksonville. So definitely get your tickets. John's going to try and be there too. I'm going to be there rocking and rolling. But I really can't express how fun and musically minded and sound Kris is. There's a lot of interviews where I feel like I'm BSing myself in my mind, but then he validates that I'm on the same track, and that's just a boost of encouragement and a testament to how skilled the person I'm speaking to is in the music field. So, sir, thank you so much for a wonderful interview.
Thank you so much for the support. Thanks for having me on. I'm totally in sync with you, and I really appreciate your time.
Sir, thank you so much. Guys, last thought, don't forget to go to Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, their website, Black Note Graffiti. You will find all things, everything for them. And check out his brother Kurt's work. He does fantastic stuff. But I digress. Be smart, be mindful, rock on. And as always, guys, ninja out.
Woo, baby, you listen to John the Ninja. All your ears are about to go on a vacation. John the Ninja's got what you need.